Okay.
Really? You tried to...
Confirm.
But you tried to...
We are live.
Hello, viewers.
Really? You tried to...
Or, well, singular.
All one of you.
Which is actually me, because I have the stream up, so I see the chat just in case.
Oh. I see how it is.
He's boosting the numbers.
He's embezzling viewer count.
I don't know if that really counts as embezzling, but alright, sure. We'll call it that.
I'm
Alright.
artificially inflating my viewership so I can get that sweet, sweet Twitch money.
Oh gosh.
Right.
Yeah, the day we start having subscribers is the day it all goes downhill. Well, alright.
It'll be a special, special day. Now then, does anybody want to do a recap?
I vote Grass does the recap.
I don't think I should do that.
I vote that's not a thing that we do. I vote that your character also gets kicked in the naughty bits, just to as a reminder to not do stuff like that. Throwing another player under a bus like that. How dare?
Not another player, he's my roommate.
How dare?
It's what he's there for. Is that right, Graphs?
Yes.
See?
Whoops. Whoops. Okay.
Uh-oh.
The
What is it?
shame.
Alright, collecting my thoughts and then I can do a recap. Have a sip of coffee too.
It wasn't that big. We had a very, very nice, surprisingly short trip to the Empyrean. We were told it would take a week. Actually, it took only like a day and a half. And we arrived. We met a nice squirrel person, as in like literally a squirrel, only really, really big.
Yes, Lord Radadosk.
Well, we didn't know that at the time.
Well, we knew his name. We just didn't know about the honorific part.
Yep.
That's fair.
True. And then we met, or we were greeted by Percival, who is sort of, what do you call it, our liaison?
Liaison, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know words. And we got a bit of a tour. Got to look around a bit, and then he led us, basically to his home, which is in the domain of his lord. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. TH is stupid.
Thoth.
Thoth.
Yeah, that. We had a nice bath, got all presentable, and then we went and met Lord.
Thoth.
Thoth.
Thank you. And yeah, who is one of the, well, the lords. I forgot the actual term. Sorry.
One of the
Pantheon.
Pantheon.
The Pantheon. Thank you. And who is all about books and learning, and he's working on a huge library of everything. And it was apparently him who had the idea of bringing outside people into investigate the murder that took place.
And the one who was murdered is Nordrin the Verdant.
Yes.
Who rules the, who is next door is the Thoth. And hopefully we can investigate the scene of the crime without his people trying to mug us.
Well, that is pretty much as far as we got. We had a nice chat, and then it was basically, well, chop chop, you go and do your thing.
Also, Percival came to escort us to our new place. That we're staying for the Empyrean.
But I think that was pretty much it.
Yep, I think that was it.
Now, as you might recall, the overseer for all of this is a dragon named Zerazed.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and double-checked and brushed up on some of the lore, just a little bit, to make sure I had everything right. And I did have a few things a little bit off, but that's okay. So some clarifications here and there, things that would have been explained to your characters as you got on and whatnot. Is that all right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, not really a big fan of having to do a little bit of exposition beforehand, but hey, you know, this should help our viewers and you as well. So, Zerazed is the head of about 100 members or so of what is the divinity and called, and only only about 100 divine members. Those invited people whose appearance or circumstances has earned them the title divine being by the standards of the society, and a few thousand hopefuls, those people who serve the station in hopes of earning ascendance into divinity someday. Of the divine monsters, only a dozen or so have been enhanced to a tier befitting what has been called the Pantheon, which Zerazed still sits at the highest rank of. Those beside him are called siblings, and the monsters below are children, and the hopefuls are held in different names and social standing depending on which divine child they serve.
Okay.
So, the upper regions where you're currently at, is where other divinity are, so it's kind of an exclusive area. Does that kind of make sense now?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And the last thing before we actually get anywhere is we have a new
Player, say hi, Graphs.
Howdy.
And his character is Guimond. What's the last name again?
Hirth. Hirf. Hirth. Jesus.
Guimond Hirth. Alright. And we will be weaving him into the story shortly. I think we're good. Now, as you lead the kingdom, as it were, of the Lord Thoth, Percival takes the time to remind you that the place you're going isn't exactly gentle. Nordrun, as one of the few members of the Pantheon, had a very specific job. which you wouldn't really believe he might have. He had a second title, the Fafner. In other words, he was the greedy one, the one in charge of all the money.
Oh.
He actually ran any and all businesses outside of the Empyrean. So,
Well,
even more so than Thoth, Nordrun dealt a lot with outsiders.
Interesting.
Well,
He was part of the one who kept the accounts, basically. The bookkeeper.
the list of
Be the
subjects and
accountant.
possible motive just opened up a great deal.
Mm-hmm. So this is a excellent opportunity for one of the other children to advance and for a very important job to be filled. Because
also
while it,
very big shoes to fill.
because while it doesn't necessarily increase a massive amount of merit here, it does allow you a greater influence over the station as a whole, because it helps. You're the one in charge of making sure a lot of what happens on the outside that affects the Empyrean gets done.
Mm-hmm.
So while it doesn't necessarily give you a whole lot of power within the community, it does give you a bit more power when it comes to the higher ups. So it's one of those, I guess, double-edged swords where you have a lot of power, but only in a select place because everybody else is kind of like, whatever. Like being Secretary of State in the United States of America. Yeah, sure, you got a whole lot of power, but you don't get a whole lot of recognition for it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. Poor guy, though.
Okay. So once you make it across the shifting sands of the tiny desert and go back through the plains where you can see similar buildings to Percival's home dotting the landscape, you're guided to a smaller but just as sturdy door off to the one side of the enclosure. This is marked with what can only be imagined to be a dragon of some kind, on a backing of gold and green.
Neat. I don't think Daxon's ever seen a dragon before.
This is just a dragon's head on what appears to be a coin, but not very surprising considering the job.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have taken the liberty of returning all of your gear to the waiting room between the realms. Remember, simply use the system I described previously of finding the correct symbol and pressing it to find the way to where you need to go. And if you need any assistance, there are usually guides near every post. Now, if you will excuse me, I will be on my way. I have other matters to attend to. But
Of course.
if you do need me, here is my toggle information. Please. And with that, the large lion twists about and leaves, taking making great strides through the grass. Now then, as you enter into the door, it opens up into what can only be described as a short hall with a coat rack just lining the side.
Hmm.
And an attendant sits idly by, reading something. You're not quite sure what it is, but it is rather startling because it's an actual physical book. Made with paper and pages, and not digital.
Rich people stuff.
Retro.
Mm-hmm.
Very retro.
Empyrean, the original hipster enclave.
I mean, technically, you ain't wrong.
He's not wrong, but there's a slight bit of truth in a roast.
All right. Well, I will approach the attendant and ask if they're the one that I speak to requisition my gear.
They jerk a thumb over to the coat rack, and sure enough, you can see your gear lined up next to a coat of some kind. You're not sure what the material is made of, but it looks like some variation of would-be leather.
I go and grab my gear, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be nice not to feel
Huzzah.
cold again.
You have pants now.
Huzzah! Pants time.
Finally, you don't have to be, just wearing a tunic. It breathes great, but at the same time, pants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's have
not-
some decency.
I actually kind of like it. It feels good. Admittedly, I don't want to try flying on one.
I would recommend not to.
No, definitely. Everything would be flapping everywhere.
Not just your wings.
Wow.
Yogi,
Yeah, no
Well-
comment.
That went dirty real fast.
Anyway, yay gear. What sort of gear do I have anyway? I should check.
So, you guys gonna put on the coats right away, or?
Of course, I'm freaking cold.
I'll throw my gear on, and the
Oh, I'm guessing they appear to be intended for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well,
Probably for us to go
Mm,
through
might
the
as
next
well.
door.
Might as well then.
Yeah.
I'll do that too.
so long as it's not gonna be like way too warm, sure.
Yeah, it's not bad. Anyway, one of the things that strikes you is that there seems to be a coat missing from next to your own.
Huh. The any like labels on the rack or anything?
Nope. No labels.
Oh.
I kind of go over to the attendant there and say, did someone else come through here that's with us from the outside?
Yeah, an outsider was here. They, I'm going to assume they were with you.
I believe so, yes.
Mm-hmm. A, stripy fellow. Kind of shifty type. Don't really know them, but, they said they were going to be waiting for you. Said they were part of your group, but, they had arrived a little bit earlier.
So I guess it's time to meet this person then. I guess I turn to the group and thank the attendant for the information.
Mm-hmm. Sure, whatever. They don't seem very interested in talking. Now, the other door is marked with similar symbol. Of course, it is a digital display, so you're pretty sure that could change eventually.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, unless there's anything else, shall we get going?
We don't want
Sounds
to
good to
keep
me.
we don't want to keep the other person that's also with us too long. Well, we're going.
Ooh.
The ooh.
You're immediately struck by the cold. A
Ooh.
bitter wind, not too strong, but just stiff enough to bring the snow to your eyes, and familiar sting to those who ventured into a more wintry or cold climate. The trees are not exceedingly tall, but they are quite large and you're going to guess fairly old, or at least they have the appearance as such. Snow covers most of the land, but through it you can see patches of grass and bushes here and there. It seems vaguely like some of the more hilly lands on Mars, but different. Something about this, while it's distinctly an artificial sort of different, it's also not quite the same as far as other parts of its design. You can't quite put your finger on it.
But it
Before
does
you-
feel
Go ahead.
it does feel like kind of a blend of natural and artificial environments, largely.
Well, it no different than the way that the realm of Lord Thoth was, is where it appears natural, but there are very clearly artificial elements in it. It's just difficult to parse what the other part of that unnatural feeling to it is. It's not just, oh, hey, there happens to be a computer terminal sticking out of that tree over there, that sort of thing. More of, there's something else about this that feels off as compared to your normal planetary feeling.
Right. Okay.
Like I would probably know since I was raised on a mood of Neptune. Cold environments.
Now, before you stands a large hall and a few similar buildings. It appears to be made out of wood in a very old style, but you can't quite recognize its origin. You're gonna guess at least it's old. Nobody actually builds out of wood unless there's some backwoodser on friggin'
Ganymede. But yeah, nice looking.
Either that or incredibly rich. Near the entrance is the person you're going to assume was with your party, a lemur. At this point, Grafsberg, if you would go on to describe your character, I'd be most grateful.
Okay. So Guimond Hearth is a plantigrade ring-tailed lemur vector. Average height, looks very gangly and skinny. Apart from the coat that he was given for coming into here, the most noticeable thing about him is that his clothes are very shabby just very shabby in general. Kind of like they somehow managed to look secondhand despite being just as, like, manufactured as any other outfit.
So tacky.
Basically. He's just, at the moment, just kind of casually leaning against the door, fiddling with his toggle case, waiting for someone to arrive.
Well, Daxon will approach. Big, kind of gruff, but kind of rough and tumble, but friendly looking spotted hyena in an IRPF crew uniform. He's gonna approach Guimond and say, "Are you Guimond Hearth?"
Guimond's gonna look up from his toggle, give Daxon kind of a once-over. Yeah.
Hmm.
You my contact?
We're the rest of the group.
I'll take that as a yes, then. Well, good to meet you, finally. And he will go ahead and offer to shake hands with Daxon.
Daxon's grip is firm. His smile a little terse, but genuine.
Well, I don't know about you, but it's really fucking cold out here. So
Here,
how about
here.
we go inside?
Like to note, Cecily just nods in greeting and does not offer a hand because she has wrapped herself in both coat and wings and looks distinctly uncomfortable.
Floof, protect herself.
I might be occasional mutter of something like, I moved to the whale to get away from weather like this.
As you enter what you realize are actually very large doors, the doors themselves could open up to accept 3 vectors standing side by side and still have room to kind of wiggle a little bit. And they're quite tall. As you enter, you're allowed to move your tokens, by the by. You overhear several voices. 2 of which in particular are much closer and much angrier and louder. I told you, we don't have it. If we did, we wouldn't be speaking. Why must you invade our home in this time of trial? I understand your stress, but it is owed. We need to mourn. You should have more respect. One of the Pantheon is gone. This is not about respect or disrespect. Your lord owed due, and now he cannot pay, so you must, as his chosen. But right on the eve of it, have patience. It is unbecoming of another member of the Pantheon or their servants to be so pushy. The 2 voices appear to be coming from the vector standing nearest to what is a very sumptuous entryway, complete with an actual bearskin Rug, you're hoping it wasn't a vector at some point. But then again, it's the Empyrean. It very well could have been.
It's probably the previous lodge member or owner.
Yeah,
Couldn't pay his dues.
Kimon gives the bearskin Rug a very wide berth as he walks inside.
Which is admittedly a bit difficult to do, considering the friggin' size of the thing.
Oh, he'll hug the wall and tiptoe if he has to.
No, it's pretty big. Even though the entryway is fairly large, it's still... You get the feeling it might have been able to brush the top of that doorway, which was several feet higher than yourselves. You feel like if you'd had stood on top of each other's shoulders, you would have been able to grab onto the top.
Must have been one heck of a bear.
The vectors in question, one is a very large lion covered in blue tattoos and piercings. His chest is mostly bare, and you can see multiple scars and tattoos crisscrossing along it in a very tribalistic fashion. He's similarly large to Percival, except bigger, brawnier, and decidedly angrier looking.
Oh, there's our contact.
The other one is distinctly smaller and exceedingly sleek. At first you thought it was a wolf, but as you get closer you note that her dimensions are a little bit different. You're not quite sure exactly what species she's supposed to be, but there's a very distinct difference in the glow of her eyes. And then you realize her eyes are literally glowing. That's not just, oh hey, the light's bouncing off. No, they're producing light on their own.
Neat.
Apparently, the large lion is the one yelling at the smaller canine. I see you have guests. We'll continue this later. We will not! We settle now. You will come back in a week's time. By then we should have it ready for you. And no sooner. You do not get to... I will make whatever demands are necessary. Until another member of the Pantheon is chosen, this is my hall. As my lord wished it. And we will do as we must. You are not in your realm, Cloudstrider. Behave with the respect due to those in charge of the land you walk upon. Blow yourself up. Walk on high cliffs. Be careful you don't fall off. She strides past you, making a curt pace, and you're pretty sure when her foot clipped the back of the bear's head it was intentional.
Rude.
Well, that smells like a sour relationship.
Quite.
The lion turns to you, and you get a better look at him, and good grief, he is a big giveaway.
Did Percival say what his brother's name was?
Yes, Perseus.
Not Perseus, Perseus. Remember, everything's a little bit off. You know, 700 odd years allows for things to get a little bit wonky.
Okay.
And its Lord was the title, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm gonna gamble on
Thank
that
you.
with as in character knowledge, and Daxon is gonna step up, give a bow, and say, "Lord Perseus, I presume."
I am no lord yet. But it will do for now. I am Perseus. I'm sure you've met my golden little brother. Welcome to the Verdant Hall. In as much as we can welcome you. The jackal.
Excuse me, choking on my own tongue. Sorry, continue.
Formerly this was the hall of the great Lord Nordrun, also known as the Dragon of Fafnir. He was a good lord. He encouraged strength in all things. It is why we are the mightiest warriors in all of the Empyrean, and arguably all of the system. But come, sit, drink, stay a while. It is rare that we have strangers in our halls, but as our verdant lord would have us, we welcome guests.
Thank you.
As you enter a little closer, you notice something rather disturbing in the background. It's massive.
Oh.
Oh,
It is
Oh,
that's a dragon skeleton.
Well, at least
the
now we know.
head is easily as large as one of you.
what the hell?
At least now we know why we can't examine the body.
I apologize, but Nordrun asked for a single week of mourning, having his skeleton still intact, but hung in the hall. A bit macabre, but it is as the Lord wishes, and it suits him.
Well, he still looks very regal. Gimon will pipe in.
Considering the size of him, I would agree. Every scrape and bone fracture has a story behind it. He asks that we hide him. His skin is elsewhere, being prepared to be used as part of an armor, as is his bones, after the week is through. But his innards would be ground up and burnt, and sent into the sun, as per his wishes.
Of curiosity, how long ago did he establish these wishes?
It had been a long-standing wish to have what remain to have his ashes sent into the sun. He figured since he was a dragon, he might as well burn a fire as bright as can be. As for the others, we all knew he wanted something of himself made for a successor. Exactly what, we're unsure yet, as the actual title of whom will take over his place, and thus his hall, is uncertain. I am in command for now, but that is simply a formality until his week of mourning is through. And then a new member of the Pantheon will be named, and the realm will shift to another child. And all of us will either serve them or move on. potentially serving another member of the Pantheon, a different child. We shall see.
I understand. Would it be acceptable for our medical specialist to examine the skeleton?
Please, do.
I start getting work on it and say, thank you.
No. Thank you, outsiders. Most of the members of the Empyrean will not trust you. Lord Nordrun had made his life's work working with outsiders, and has proved time and again that while your values might be questionable here and there, your worth and esteem is your own.
With
Some
all
of
due
the-
respect, sir, we're not here to question or change your values. We're here to do a job and bring justice to a murderer.
Well, to find who did it first.
Quite.
Rightly so, rightly so.
Hmm.
Which brings to mind, I'm guessing that this is unprecedented. Is there a method or system in place for determining a new Pantheon member?
There is a system, though it has not been used in quite some time.
How long is some time?
Before I was born.
Right. Well, how does the system work?
Like any other system of ascension here on the Empyrean. If someone moves down in rank, another rises. There is a perpetual balance. One might argue that the court is a ever-shifting dance of daggers and cloaks. Sweet words and promises, bitter revenge.
Noted, but I was more asking how the selection is made.
Oh, that is in part by the Council of the Pantheon themselves, considering there are only about 12 of them or so, depending on the century. It's usually a fairly unanimous decision. More often than not, it is the decision to strip a child of their power and to reduce them again to a hopeful, or to elevate them to a semi-pantheon position. Very rarely will they be lifted to the pantheon themselves. Lord Nordrun was one of the few in his construction of a dragon who was lifted onto the pantheon to serve alongside Zerozad. As you will soon find out that no member of the pantheon is quite the same construction, but Nordrun was one of the few who was similar.
Is that a standing rule or more of a cultural guideline?
It's more of an informal thing. Very few of us, as you can see here in the hall, he gestures to the other vectors, all of whom are of very different shapes, but generally speaking are large and muscle-bound. Each of us is a bit different from the others.
Jackson has the errant thought that he just accidentally walked into the Pulse locker room and is about to get beaten up by the jocks.
Or something else entirely.
Yeah, let's move away from all those guys, please.
As far as that check, that was a
Medicine.
medicine and
Wait, is it a It's a mind perceive?
okay. That's what I was gonna ask you, but thank you anyway.
Yeah, you could do a mind perceive or probably a body perceive too.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
It just depends on how he's going about it. If he's doing mind perceive, it's more of him looking at certain things and drawing conclusions about the victim's life through that.
Mhm.
Or if it was body perceive, it was noticing something physically unusual about it.
Yeah, I'll probably do a mind perceive first and a body perceive next.
Okay.
Also keep in mind that you can't just roll anymore. You need to know the difficulty of the check,
Oh,
Mhm.
because on on the difficulty and your proficiency score depends your tool bonus.
Also, that like yeah, the difficulty determines what dice you roll too.
Mhm.
Yeah, that too.
So just please keep that in mind. However, in this case, you were correct. It's not necessarily difficult, but it's not necessarily easy. It's a large specimen.
like
The
it's a lot of
exaggeration-
grammar, Doctor.
Yes, it's a lot of person to go over. But one of the things you do notice is that Perseus was not exaggerating when he said that there were many fractures and many other things here and there. There's a few fangs missing. Some of the teeth are as long as your thumb, if not larger. But overall, the body seems to have the skeleton seems to have taken a lifetime of some form of rigorous activity, whether it was combat, hunting, you're not sure what, but there's a few bones that have fused back together and healed. Something you do notice, though, is that most of those tend to be what you would assume are more natural. One thing in particular that does stick out is that there is, towards the underside of the top of his jaw, so like it's inside his mouth, if he was still alive, there's a hole that has been punctured and shattered through the bone that would have led to the brain cavity.
Wait. I kind of point this out and say, you said that that the cause of death was the lance, right?
Indeed. Shoved down his face.
Well, that would explain the rather large hole from the jaw to his brain back to the skull.
Mm-hmm. It did not... I would assume it was when he was attempting to breathe fire. They took the opportunity to pierce the only part of him, aside from his eyes, that was not covered in armor.
Daxon kind of gives him an even skeptical stare and says he could breathe fire.
Perseus points to a large scorch mark on the wall. Yes. Yes, he could.
I've seen people light things on fire with the snap of their fingers, so for what it's worth, I believe you.
Moving back to the lance bit, given your obvious physical prowess, how difficult do you think that would be?
Ugh. If it were me, I would have said impossible. Not because it's physically impossible for me to have taken something similar to that and thrust it through our dear Lord's innards, but rather that it would have been impossible to beat him in open combat. You see, aside from his monetary abilities, which his business acumen was unrivaled. He competed with some of the largest corporations in all of Seoul, at least according to the other members of the Pantheon. But, go ahead.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying he was caught by surprise?
Either that or poisoned or some other method of forcefully lowering down his guard but not completely incapacitating him. In some
Well,
measure or another, he was still more than capable of fighting back, just not as ably.
well, unfortunately, we won't be able to speculate or even follow the poison route, given his requests. But at the
Indeed.
very
Actually, regarding that, you said that his internal organs were being processed.
Being
Yes.
burned, weren't they?
They were all incinerated. They told us.
Hmm.
His skin was still intact. Would you be able to detect poison in his skin cells?
I would, though I would need permission. Since his skin's being used to make armor.
I see no reason to prevent you. It is your duty to pursue any and all avenues. We do have a recording from the time of his death. The cameras caught it.
There's camera footage.
Also,
It's a bit baffling considering you can see no visible cameras anywhere in the building.
Yes, Cecily looks very surprised at that.
They're installed in the walls. Perseus walks up to one of the wooden walls and taps on it a little. And you can hear it slightly hollow, but it's not wholly a wooden sound. Wood covering metal plating. Well, the building itself is made to replicate the old. As you can tell, it is well maintained at a very specific temperature in here, versus out there where it fluctuates a little more, to emulate seasons and a more real world. I'm also certain you've noticed that the gravity in this realm is a little bit lighter.
yes, we could tell.
It is to account for Lord Nordrum's size. Many members of the Pantheon are large.
We see Northoth.
He is small compared to some of the others, and Nordrun himself is not even that large. Though considering he stretches meters long, I understand why one might find that a bit hard to believe.
And could I do a body perceive medicine to see if there's any unusual nicks
Yes.
or cracks?
And yes, it is of average, so 1d10, all that jazz. As far as tool usage, do you have anything that would help you identify anything unnatural in this specific body?
Tool-wise, just let me go to the item. I do have the perk item.
The perk won't help you at all here.
Yeah, the perk only helps when they're still alive.
Maybe you could ask one of the people here for a little help. Or perhaps ask them if there's some kind of medical report.
Oh,
There is a way to help yourself, my friend.
I know.
Roleplay a little bit.
I kind of look over to my items and see that I try to reach for the perk, but I remember it's only used for living people, and I ask, Perseus, do you have any medical items that I could use to identify the non-living?
Well, I don't know. One of the folks sitting at the table and eating and drinking, they seem to have been feasting this whole time and talking garrulously about various different things. One of them burst into song at a point. You're pretty sure this is typical. One of them gets up. I'm in charge of the medical stuff here. Not exactly versed in the terms, but I do have a few reports from his last checkup to make sure that he was doing all right. Here. He hands you a small data slate. These are a bit old school. It's kind of like a toggle, but it's got a screen built in, and while it could connect to other devices, it's its own little computer.
This is rather ancient, but thank you nonetheless.
You're welcome.
And I kind of start browsing through the the checkup on Nodrun. And
Well, it has his medical history up to a certain point. Something that you notice rather quickly is that he has a history of getting himself hurt in hunting accidents.
That is somehow fitting.
What was he hunting?
Probably Dick Cheney.
ah,
At least it would be a challenge.
Yeah, whatever. Moving on.
One of which was a time where one of his eyes was injured, which would explain some scrapes along the bone on his right side. It said bear.
Oh,
Pretty sure it meant that bear.
that would explain
one-
things.
the throw rug.
You'll also notice that there are a few other trophies here and there dotted along the walls. His bones aren't the only one on display here.
Okay, going through the checkup history that he has, and I'll do the check.
Alright, so you have a superior weapon here. I mean, a superior weapon. A superior tool here. It's a bit of overkill because it tells you literally everything about what's happened fairly recently.
So is there a bonus, or?
Yes, a superior bonus. Let me get you...
Which is what, plus
Okay,
3 or plus 5?
superior tool is +5.
Oh, +5, damn.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Which is the one you rolled previously.
Superior
that was
Tool,
just
that's
my
the name
natural.
of my avant-garde band.
what? Now the difficulty of the check.
Standard.
Okay, so I would have a
Average.
+9 to this.
No,
Never mind.
it's not.
Fine.
Alright.
Okay, never mind.
No,
Okay.
the standard would be difficulty 1. Now, what is your proficiency in medicine?
3.
3. Wow. Okay. In that case,
You would upgrade to a D12 and add +1, wouldn't you?
Indeed.
There you go.
Okay.
So you would roll 2d12 plus 6.
Okay then. I got this wrong.
Yes, you did. You had it wrong last time too.
Wouldn't you also add your trait score?
No.
Yeah, it was just 1.
Oh, right. Yes.
So +7. You're lucky. That 1.
Well, that happens.
Unfortunately, you get distracted by the details in the in the medical report. It's pretty extensive, and you end up going past a lot of details, and unfortunately, none of it seems to match properly, or where it should match, it doesn't quite. You realize fairly quickly that while it's extensive, it seems to be kind of hodgepodge and all over the place. It doesn't help you a whole lot. You don't notice anything beyond the hole in his head, but you do notice that it doesn't go beyond the outside of his head. You go.
Arnie wants to roll that again.
I'm afraid you will not be given the opportunity. You rolled
No.
what you rolled. Stick with it.
True.
Just adapt to it. I would like to speak with Perseus and get a list of all the children who are up for promotion, because they should probably be people we should talk to.
Are you on the search for enemies or betrayers?
Well, you said yourself that it would be fairly difficult in order to catch, and not only in order to land such a blow, but to catch him off guard as well. I believe that if we can eliminate the children as suspects, then that would make it an outside party.
Or another member of the Pantheon.
Yeah,
That-
meaning no disrespect to any of them, but the possibility for advancement is a big motivator.
Not to mention, they're one of the few that would make the physical qualifications to actually kill the individual in question.
Or maybe they use something else besides the lance. to kill him.
Possible, but at this point we can only work with the evidence that we've been given. Trying to come up with scenarios that fit the evidence, we could be here all day.
Speaking of which, if possible, I would like to examine the recording.
Of course.
I would like to as well.
Ditto.
Oi.
Also, where did the murder take place? Was it here?
Yes, it was. Come, follow me.
I just closed details and just snap back to reality.
All right. So he makes his way under past the past the large metal doors in the back. They are very clearly built to allow Nordrun's bulk. But even so, you can see his muscles tense as he pushes open the doors. This is Lord Nordrun's room. You can see several glowing runes on the floor, a large mat you can only assume that served as his bed, a few torches, and a large metal chest in the back, as well as a small inset along one of the walls, along the wall on the left-hand side. Perseus pushes against it with his hand, and the wall slides up, and then a computer large with a keyboard large enough for someone of Nordrun's size emerges from inside the wall. I am one of the few who still has access to this. This has all the security footage for all of the realm of Nordrun.
Very impressive.
Like I imagine the keyboard being like just like small child and sees the keyboard for the first time, they had to use their own fingers to push the keys.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty sizable. But it doesn't necessarily make it difficult to use, just a little bit slower as you have to actually push the button. You can't just tap it. He pulls up fairly quickly the information you're looking for, and using the touchscreen, scrolls through. This is the camera for Nordrun's own chamber at the time of his death. Part of it was corrupted, so the exit and what happens immediately after his death is gone. We only have up to the strike itself. Luckily, we do have sound.
At least that's a blessing in disguise.
So, the video pulls up, and you see Nordrun. He is very, very green. Get you now understand why he earned the name the Verdant.
Particularly green with envy.
He's curled up, and you almost would have said a rather cute ball sleeping on his mat. You hear the echo of the doors being forced open. Nordrun cracks open an eye and reacts, but he seems sluggish. Not just the, oh, I'm sleepy kind. He struggles, and you see a large cloaked figure with a distinct spear-like object held in one hand, though it's not exactly bright, considering the only lighting is the torches in the room. Suddenly, it brightens considerably as Nordrun breathes fire down the hall. The cloaked figure seems to have ignored it and continued their advance, entirely unaffected. Smoke seems to rise from the cloak, but beyond that, nothing. Nordrun rears back for another blast of flame, only to have it interrupted, and nothing but black smoke and a few embers curl from his maw as the spear has been thrust through his open mouth.
Well, that certainly clears up a few things. It seems like your theory about the poison was not far off.
He definitely seemed impaired.
Not physically, though, but mentally. Probably a neural agent of some sort.
Conjecture at this point, but a good lead.
On top of that,
Neural.
you're
Neural
also,
agent.
Arcane
top-
first. Arcane first, and then we'll get back to that, okay?
It looks like a neural agent of some kind, but I believe that.
Okay.
See, could I do a mind exert to remember what type of neural agent would do something like that?
If you're doing it just from memory, this is going to be a little bit more difficult. But if you were to take the time to use your toggle and look it up on the SoulNet, it might be a little bit easier. Remember, use the resources at hand and don't just brute force it. You're
Right.
a Vector, not a
Yeah, right.
Barbarian. Now, back to Nusik, if we could.
sure. I was going to say the second thing this video proves is that the assailant either had fireproof material on or was fireproof, indicating both prior knowledge and advanced materials. I'm guessing you don't actually carry fireproof clothing around here, do you?
No. Not generally. Though, those who work under the great engineer, they might have such. It would be necessary for working in some of the more dangerous ducts and whatnot. I wouldn't really know anything about that.
What time did this happen?
Sometime in the night.
Do you have any other cameras around the premises, perhaps near the front door?
Yes, we do. We have a few that show this person entering the hall.
And who is here at night? Does the hall remain open through the night, or do you have a closing time?
Well, the hall is where we all live. I was here, sleeping, when my lord died. You hear an ominous cracking of his knuckles as his hands close to fists.
Are there any nocturnal people that live in the hall?
There is one, the cook. But,
That is definitely someone I would like to talk to.
I am afraid that, it couldn't have possibly been them.
Well, no, but perhaps he might have seen or heard something.
Or maybe recognize
That
a
is
detail or
why
two
it
we
would
have
have been
missed.
impossible for them to have been there or done it. They are not here.
Is the cook dead?
No, in the medical wing. They were injured in our last hunt. They insisted on helping with getting the boar themselves, and they broke their arm. Normally, we would have used some of our medicine to properly heal them quickly, but the Lord found it a very entertaining tale and spectacle, so they allowed them the honor of keeping the scars.
So, how long ago was the cook injured?
They would be returning tomorrow.
In that case, who prepared the Lord's meals in the interim?
We did it on rotations. They were only going to be gone for a few days before, so we each took turns. A few of the other members of the children and Pantheon did send gifts and what all, but after a large hunt like that, the Lord tends to prepare his own meals. As you can see, his method of cooking is a little different.
I
Was.
can imagine.
My best guess, if he was poisoned, they probably slipped it in his food. That's what I would do. So we will need to
My thought
interview
exactly.
everyone who cooked for him within the last couple of days.
No, but I don't
Within
think.
the couple of days leading up to the murder. Yeah. Daxon actually has a bit of sleuthing he needs to do. Looking at the video, would it be possible using visual reference to what's in the room and measurements to see exactly how tall and wide the individual was?
Actually, yes. Yes, you could. Taking into account, Dr. Reese, I believe is how he said it.
Yeah, Dr. Reese.
Dr. Reese's measurements and the actual physical evidence of having Nordrun's skeleton right there for comparison, it would be a fairly simple matter to do that.
Excellent. Yeah, but we're gonna need some sort of physical description if we're gonna be able to cross-reference anything.
You mentioned that the security footage, at least part of it, was corrupted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would Guimond be able to use, say, sabotage to hack into the computer to see if it's been tampered with in any way?
Well, you can use sabotage, I think, to recognize the kind of thing that was done to it. If you got to look at the actual raw data.
That would be good enough.
Yeah, it's more or less about getting the same sort of thing. You'd be able to see how it was damaged, or if this was the computer it was messed with from, or if it was a different location or something. So yeah, you could do that. I'm gonna need a computer's check from you.
By the way,
Sabotage check or
Sabotage. Yes, sabotage.
Okay.
Because you're going about this as if you were going to be the hacker. So
Uh,
go ahead.
what's the difficulty?
I'm gonna say a 3.
Okay. If I am using my toggle, would that count as standard tools?
Do you not have a crash suite?
I do not. I'm poor.
Yeah, because the crash suite would be like the superior tool.
Mhm.
Exactly.
I think.
The crash seat would universally be superior unless it's something that's designed to countermeasure that specific thing. So yes, I'm gonna say it's a difficulty of 3, and
Okay.
I'm gonna need this sabotage check, and that is going to be a mind, right?
Yes, mind, exert or perceive? Probably exert, I would
Probably-
think.
I would say perceive, but
Actually,
Well-
yes, because he's trying to find information, so it probably would be perceive.
Yeah, you're trying to notice patterns in the way the data is presented and all that. It's not necessarily logicking it out or using your brain to muscle it so much as it is noticing what's there. So I would say perceive as well.
Okay, so it would be D12 plus D8 plus 4, I think.
by the way, can I do my mind perceive medicine for the neural agent with my toggle?
This is going to be a mind exert
Oh, mind exert. Okay. So
because you're trying to figure it out. While you are using a tool, this is going to be a difficulty of considering how this is rather specific. This is difficulty 4.
oh,
Because you don't have a whole lot of evidence to go on here. Just a video of the person feeling the symptoms. You're not seeing the delivery. You don't have any samples left over. You have nothing to go on other than a video here. So that escalates the difficulty here. So it's a difficulty of 4.
So my proficiency is 3 for medicine, so I get the 2d12 again. I'm also I have a boon in medicine. So 2d12 plus.
Wait, hold on. You said you have a 3 in medicine?
Yeah.
3 is less than 4. So you're going to be rolling a d8 and a d12.
Yep.
So 1d8 and 1d12.
Mm-hmm.
1d8 plus 1d12 plus.
Thanks, Star.
Okay. 1d8 plus 1d12 plus. One plus. So plus 3.
That is a standard tool value, so I would think yes.
Yeah. Including the same tool.
Okay.
We're really striking out today.
Yeah, just get all the bad rolls out early.
Get
Yep.
them all out.
Well, unless I'm missing anything, you're actually not doing too badly.
No, they are, because the default success is like 16.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, no. What I'm looking at measuring your success. Let me double check, make sure I'm doing this properly. Yeah,
Okay, I
no.
probably-
For the current docs, it says if you fail to hit the target number, usually 8, unless some special condition exists, with any of the dice you've rolled after adding your proficiency value to each of them.
What?
That's
Wait,
That's
what?
different from that's in the book.
Yeah.
On the 5218
The
PDF.
5.3. I thought we were going off of the 5.3.17.
No, 5.2.18.
It's 2018 Rage.
Oh, I'm having a brain fart. I picked the wrong PDF. Let me go do that. Herpeter. I have done myself a dupin.
It's okay. You woke up not long ago.
Excuses.
Not everybody can be a morning person, Rage.
Ah, hey, where's my... It's 5.2, right?
Yep.
Yep.
I can send you my copy.
Ah, nah, it should be in our documents. What the hell? I must have misplaced my copy and not put it where with the rest of my stuff.
Like, I
Goodness
remember
gracious
the
me.
last year, you said computers, because that was the previous 2.0
Yeah,
edition.
that's
Oh,
why.
yeah.
That's why. It explains so much.
Wow. It's okay, though.
I did a big old derping.
That you did.
It happened so.
Meanwhile, while you're looking at that PDF and determining the results, I would like to ask Perseus where they source the hunting targets.
It comes from a Venusian company. They provide hunting targets for the wealthy. Lord Nordrun has had a deal with them for nigh on a century now.
Just a shot in the dark here, but that person who was being disrespectful earlier, they wouldn't happen to represent that company, would they?
Cloudstrider. No. Cloudstrider is one of the hopefuls in service to another member of the Pantheon, Lord Darksky. Pump
That
his
sounds
feathery
nice.
windbag. Lord Nordrun and Darksky have a rocky relationship. At best.
What was the nature of their relationship? Professional? Did their roles conflict? Was it a conflict of business interest, personality?
What didn't they conflict upon? They competed for the same lover. They fought literal physical battles more than once. They competed on merit. They did not agree ideologically. The only one who's more diametrically opposed to Nordrun's The Survival of the Strongest was Lord Thoth. But Thoth was, though he is weak, he is clever.
So he was able to prove his merit in other ways.
Exactly. Darksky, strong, but weak-minded. He insists on mercy to those who fail and so many other things that Nordrun could not reconcile. And while they fought, it was always with the intent of them, one trying to prove the other's point. It was never to murder each other.
Though I would think, Perseus, that Dark Sky might be behind this, or someone else. We don't have full suspects, but we're just guessing at this point.
It would be too harmful to guess at this point. Too many egos on the line.
True, but we can at least make a list and narrow it down as we go.
I
You're
would
not wrong.
tread carefully. Insinuate that one of the Pantheon would stoop to underhanded murder. Well, that
In
might
the
be the
greater
case.
soul
Cannot
system,
count it out.
In the greater soul system, family and friends are always investigated before others. Whether it's simply to eliminate them as suspects or to narrow the field, as undignified as it is, it's standard procedure. However, that doesn't mean we aren't going to tread with a great degree of Daxon kind of looks around at the group, caution in this regard.
I would advise such.
Also, be right
Pantheon.
back real fast. Go ahead and
Go ahead.
continue.
The Pantheon, many of them have been alive for longer than any of us put together. They did not survive that long because of idle wasting of time with murder. Most of them are more straightforward than that. They can afford it.
That if it's not the
Now
Pantheon.
then, difficulty. All basic checks pass 16, but then it'll be easier or harder for you to hit based on how well trained you are at the task. So, percentage applying. Okay. Oh, I see.
Now you got it.
Yep.
Well, with that in mind, I think a few things have become clear to us, but it may sound like an odd question, but it's just something that struck me. How many members of the Pantheon adhere to a strict theme?
It is easier to ask who doesn't. Radadosk is one of the few claims no realm for himself. And unlike most of the others, has no body modifications that increase him beyond normal vector size. Though many members of the Children are physically more capable, myself included, the members of the Pantheon are in their own realm. Breathing fire was not the only thing Nord could do, but there are others. Take, for example, the Lady Skilla. She is small, but she could turn me into scraps of meat in mere seconds.
Lady Skilla?
The Lady of Deep Waters. It is said she originated in the depths of a certain ocean. I believe you know the kind I mean. With orcas of a very different variety. When exactly she became a member of the Pantheon is unclear. But she's not only one of the more powerful merit-wise, but she's also one of the most physically powerful members of the Pantheon we have on the Empyrean.
Noted. Although I'm guessing my question wasn't quite clear. I look at this video and I can think of all the possible ways that this would have been, done otherwise back where we come from. I look at a lance, which is something from fiction, and I immediately turn to the idea that whoever did this was a stickler for the theme.
That
I
is
would say
decent
so.
conjecture.
It is conjecture.
I would say so, because there's something else we haven't shown you. This was recovered. Photos were taken. Here. He accesses the computer for a moment and brings up a few photos taken of Nordrun's chambers. His body is sprawled in a similar position as to what you found it. But there's blood everywhere and specific symbols written on him. They're old but very clear. And it's not just on him, but on the walls as well.
I kind of click back to the symbols and say, wasn't Lord Thoth studying those symbols?
Indeed. May have found the answer to them, or at the very least found which ancient tongue was used to inscribe them. Many of the Pantheon are somewhat obsessive with old human mythos. For good reason. But this was clearly written in a tongue long thought dead. None of us here speak it, though we are familiar with some of the runes used.
To be perfectly honest, what kind of fucked up man would do such a thing?
It's hardly the most gruesome or senseless seeming murder that I've seen.
Hardly. But,
Really?
But it's one of the more ritualistic.
Wait, hold up. You guys have seen worse than this?
Yes.
Far worse.
We've seen far worse.
I've seen worse than this.
Well, you won't believe what vectors will do to each other when motivated enough.
And I've seen bodies enough very, very mutilated to the point they're not being recognizable.
And you keep doing this. You keep coming back and doing this.
It's a living.
Someone's gonna keep identifying them.
I know, but it's like this. I only saw this stuff on, like, the videos and the movies and stuff. Like,
Would you rather we just let the people who did it escape without punishment? Without tracking them down and keeping them from doing it again?
no,
Exactly.
no,
Somebody needs to do this.
I'm not arguing against that. I'm just wondering how y'all can stay so calm. This is fucked. This is really messed up, and you're just calm.
It gets easier.
It tends to be like it comes with a job. At first you
I
become
take
sick
it
of it.
this is your first manhunt.
I wouldn't know. I'm not allowed to remember anything I do. But this is still messed up, guys. You're all messed up. You really should see a psychiatrist or something.
I do. That's standard IRPF procedure.
Debriefing generally involves psychological profiling, yes. Listen, being hysterical and panicking about how grotesque this may or may not be is not going to help us get to the bottom of this. The sooner we get this done, the sooner we can start processing it.
And I look over to the photos and looking over the rune, the written runes on the walls and floors. Did the bloodstains still bleed through here?
Excuse me?
I mean, are there still bloodstains in the room?
No, everything's been scrubbed clean.
Does it smell like bleach?
Not necessarily like bleach, but then again, look at what kind of beings you're dealing with.
That's true.
Yeah, that's fair. Just to ask, is the chest in the video as well?
Yes.
Has anybody gone through that yet, or is that like off limits?
Did the
We
murderer...
have checked it for implements that may have been stolen, but nothing has been removed.
That
The
is
Lord Nordrun...
sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, but that is a good question. Has anything at all been taken? Any indications that the The
No.
perpetrator did anything aside the murder.
No. They came, they killed our lord and left. And they did not even kill him in fair, honorable combat.
So unfortunately, we're dealing with someone who was smart.
Someone
You
has
say
friend.
smart, I say a coward.
One can be smart and cowardly.
Your lord wasn't a coward. He's dead now.
Watch your tongue, or you'll find it hanging from a pike.
Yumon just kind of like casually raises his hands defensively.
Can you stop trying to put another body in this case? I mean, come on.
Daxon will gesture at the pictures and say, would you object to me taking copies of these photographs for our own records?
No. You are here to do a job. Patience is...
Patience is what?
You cut out there, Ridge.
Give him a sec. His internet's catching up.
Oh,
Oh,
Or it's family. In any case, though, I do think we should go speak to the engineer and potentially the whoever's in charge of ships on and off station. Because fireproof clothing has got to be a very rare thing here, and it's something that was planned ahead of time.
or maybe one of them stolen.
It is a good idea, though.
And then, I know it sounds rather like a bad idea, but I do think we should go visit the Dark Sky estate. Would you call it an estate?
Mm,
Domain?
Domain.
domain holdings.
I can't imagine, despite the way that they may have fought in the past, I can't think they'll be happy about this development. Yep, see, there we go. It was his internet.
So,
Welcome back.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Was it your internet? Do I win $5?
Yeah, that my internet literally just went and then came right
Aw.
back. I have no idea what happened.
Well, okay, so
it
you
came
said
back.
you said patience is, and then you cut out, and then we just started talking, saying that we should probably visit the chief engineer and also visit the Dark Sky domain next.
If I might, you might also want to go back to Lord Thoth first,
Yeah.
since he's closest. To see if he's found anything on the runes. But what I was going to say is that patience is thin and tempers are high. They lost their master. This is someone that they've loved and known for most of their lives, for those of them born on the Empyrean, and the others for as long as they've lived here. He's been there. And Perseus went on to say that when his parents died, his and Percival's, Lord Nordrun was there to help him pick up the pieces and move forward and become a better, at least in his view, a better vector and a better warrior. And Thoth was there to help Percival. He made him a scholar. He was no less a warrior, but, they had purpose again.
Mm-hmm.
And that was important. And so he apologized for being threatening, but it's important to remember these are basically gods you're dealing with. And they've been here for literal centuries in some cases. These are beings who are physically capable of demolishing the entirety of this station if they so wished it. they could tear it apart. I mean, it'd kill everyone, but, you know, the fact that they're physically capable of it, it can never be forgotten. Whatever it was that happened with Northern, either the person knew his weaknesses very intimately, or they were just strong enough to overpower him.
Mm,
Well,
I would say they know his weaknesses intimately.
the bigger the toast, the more fun they are to step on.
So, basically, Perseus was just saying, be very cautious when dealing with the members of the Pantheon, and the children as well. While the children are not as divine and not as powerful, the Pantheon most certainly could kill you with little
bare
effort
hands.
very little effort on their part.
Like a snap of the fingers?
I believe the usual term is something like contemptuous ease.
Yes,
Yep.
contemptuous ease would be a very good way of describing how they're capable of that.
And I would like to say to Percival, you said they fought for this.
Perseus
Perseus.
not there.
I keep getting those two mixed up. Okay. Perseus. You said that they fought for the same lover. Who was she?
Only the single most beautiful woman in the Empyrean.
Oh dear.
No less. Where's the thing? Lady Kuzunoha.
Can you spell that?
You might as well put it in chat.
Yeah, I'll put it in chat.
When it just got being pasted.
The Fox Goddess. Another member of the Pantheon. She is, in some ways, similar to our Lord Thoth and Lord Radadosk. The way her physical augmentation has gone is different. She's not physically speaking, at least to our eyes, she is not all that different from a standard vector. A little larger, perhaps, but beyond that, no difference. Or she would have you believe. However, her true power does not lie in her physical ability nor in her appearance, though bewitching it is. She's the most politically deft creature in all of Seoul. She has averted more than one war and created multiple deals through outsiders such as yourselves, which is part of why the Lord Gronhut wanted her specifically. He thought they were a good match. Him with his business and his ties to the money-making realms of the outside world, and her with her influence, not only within the Empyrean, but outside as well. They would have made a perfect network,
Well,
a
it's too,
web of power.
well, too bad those strings of the web have been cut.
Before they could even flourish. He'd been pursuing her for as long as I have known him. Dark Sky for similar reasons. But she kept her own counsel. I would suggest speaking to her on the matter personally, but while she does have great many ties to outsiders, she is not likely to keep outsiders whom she hasn't invited in her realm long.
So we are to be brief. Understood.
if she allows you in her realm at all. Entrance is not something easily granted.
Maybe you could put in a good word for us.
I'm afraid I cannot. I have never been in good standing with her, nor her children in her service. I am too brutish for their tastes. Though there have been a few times a very different sort of meeting. A brute has his day.
So I kind of look over to the others and say, shall we head back to Lord Thoth first?
We need to
I
cross
still
over
think we
the
should go to the
data.
engineer.
Alright then.
Or we could still go to Thoth first. It's closer.
Thoth is a lot more closer to fair.
Not to mention, Thoth might have more information on the engineers that might be pertinent information to
Mhm.
have before we visit them.
I have one other question before we leave, though.
Go for it.
I understand that simple security reason might prohibit this, but would it be possible that I could look into the business dealings that Lord Nordrun was, how do you say, taken care of?
I can look into it, but I cannot promise it.
Mm-hmm.
While I was in Lord Gurunhood's good graces, I was not a business. I am a warrior.
Understandable.
Very understandable.
To cover all our bases, as they say, it as hard to imagine it is, it would be possible that that someone from the outside orchestrated this. Maybe somebody who felt but okay, no, to say it differently, I'm imagining that Lord Nordrun might as well have made some enemies outside of the Empyrean.
Indeed.
Probably ones that have connections to the Empyrean.
With enough money, you have connections everywhere.
Well, that's true. Well, I'm no businessman, but that sounds truthful.
In any case, it's probably a remote possibility, but still something I would like to look into if it is possible.
No, it would make sense. Especially if, with our Lord's son not on the Empyrean, it is quite possible they were targeting him, seeking a way to manipulate.
He has a son.
Indeed. He has not been in the Empyrean in some time. He is on his quest. When he returns, he will be ascended to a member of the Divine.
A rite of passage, then.
Indeed. He's waging a war.
A war?
One of those outsiders' wars. With guns, ignoble. Ugh.
If you would be able to contact him, tell him the news.
I'm afraid we are forbidden. None from Nordrun's realm may contact him.
What?
But
Only
if-
the great
but if
master
we were to
Zerazed and
contact him.
others high enough pantheon and outside of Nordrun's direct influence may call upon him.
No harm in trying, saying it.
I do not blame you.
Is that really a good idea if he's in the middle of something important, though?
No. You has his rite of passage.
If he comes home without fulfilling that, what would happen?
Disgrace.
So, unfortunately, it would probably be to his benefit to not drag him away from what he's currently doing.
If he should abandon his quest too soon, he would never be granted the opportunity again to ascend. His father's death is most untimely.
How much longer does his quest have?
Until the war is finished. It could be days, it could be months. We will not know until he sends word, or until the council announces his success.
I just hope that his son isn't targeted as well.
It is impossible for us to know.
If he's in the middle of a hot zone, it would be a good opportunity to do so, so let's hope he's capable of handling himself.
He is not as physically as large as his father, but there's a certain trait he did inherit.
I wouldn't say fire breathing now, would it?
Let us say that he enjoyed cooking.
Ah, a pun. I see.
Something he shared with his father and his mother.
Is the mother still around?
She's one of the children, in service to, ironically enough, the Lady of Foxes.
So, might we speak with her?
Do you think it might be a little too soon?
She is closed up and in mourning. Though Nordrun did not return their feelings, Shay Lung loved our Lord. While she served another, I believe she had hoped to marry him. But since the balance of power not have been comparable, Nordrun could never have agreed.
Wait, out of character. His mother wanted to marry her son?
No!
No,
Okay, sorry. There's been a lot of names. I'm kind of getting a little tossed around here.
no. She wanted to marry the father of their son.
They had a child outside of marriage. And she wanted to follow up with a marriage, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Wait, so the dead guy is the son or the father?
The father!
father.
Okay.
The dead guy is the father. The son's mother wanted to marry the dead guy, but she couldn't because the dead guy was way above her social station.
I get it. It's just, it's been a lot of names, and I'm starting to reach my limit.
It was a little scandalous, as one can imagine. This is something that you would easily be found out, and you don't necessarily have to ask Perseus about it. It wasn't too long ago, like only 20-odd years or so, so their son's still fairly young. Considering, how the members of Divinity, how old they can be. But it was a bit of a scandal because he got really drunk, but it wasn't like they hadn't had favorable interactions before, so it wasn't like there wasn't mutual physical attraction. I mean, one dragon to another, where there you go. Very different sorts of dragons, but yes.
Oh God.
And so it was one of those things where it's like, that might be part of why the Lady of Foxes, Kuzunoha, didn't really ever decide to back Nordrun versus Dark Sky because she might have been holding that as a slight over her, that Nordrun would stoop to lay with one of her servants versus just herself.
Oh.
Oh.
So there's more motives and potential suspects right there.
So we have
Yep.
2 interlocking love triangles.
No. Well,
I mean,
kind
it sounds like it. I
There's
mean,
one
between
there's one love triangle and then one nightstand angle.
It's more of, yeah, kind of 2 interlocking love triangles. Nordrun wanted Kuzunoha for her power and her obvious beauty. Shelung wanted Nordrun because, well, there's many reasons, but we won't go into them as they're personal. But he couldn't reciprocate those feelings. And then you had Lord Darksky, who wanted Kuzunoha for similar reasons as to Northern, but was in direct rivalry with Nordrun on many other things as well. As you can tell, this all got very complicated and very twisted very quickly.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
Well, we're basically dealing with royalty on steroids here, so no surprise.
We're dealing with so many goddamn nobles.
Yeah, royalty with a god complex.
Yep.
Party vote. Who wants to go to Thoth?
Yes, I'd say we go back to the person that we know first, get information on the other parties that we've just learned about. So, you know, get information on Kuzunoha, get information on what the mother. What did you say her name was? Shay Lung. So basically, I feel like we should go back to our benefactor and just get more information on the other leads before we pursue them, rather than kind of going in a little bit more blind.
I'm more keen on going in blind because it works out for Nusig better usually in the terms of history. However, getting an introduction from Thoth could actually get us access to such people, so I can understand the logic in it.
Yeah, and as much as Chaelung is retreated in mourning, well, I mean, Daxon is kind of following IRPF procedure, and like family is the first group you talk to after a murder, so
Oh, heck yeah.
he will want to talk to her. But talking to Lord Thoth and talking about like standard procedure when approaching, you know, somebody like a junior ranked or a non-lord within a lord's domain, you know, you definitely don't want to go completely blind into that sort of mating.
So it sounds like it's, while not completely unanimous, at least in agreement.
Yep.
And I would thank Perseus for letting us do this, and I say, if they ever choose you to take Lord Dordrin's place, I think you deserve it.
Circumstances, I might have taken that as a compliment. As it stands, don't really know. But I'll take it all the same. Grace to you. Now, unless you have other business, please, leave us to our feasting and remembrance.
Very well.
We immortalize our Lord in the way he would have wanted us.
Of course.
But please, before you go, he, as he leads you out, he goes and he grabs you, skein of mead and forces them upon each of you. Take them with you as gifts. Our Lord was a generous master, and he taught us that while outsiders may not share our ways, we can learn from them. And they have some of the mightiest warriors one could ever find. So it is fitting that we share with those who seek to avenge our master's death. Good health to you, and good luck on your hunt. And should you ever need us, our swords are ready and our spears are sharp.
Noted.
Cheers.
Thank you.
You don't have to drink them right now, but
It's best to keep them.
you get the
Oh.
distinct impression that it would be a very good idea to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, well, technically on duty, but all right.
By the way, just to ask, are we like leaving now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, just one thing. I have to do my mischief roll. I like to just see, like, maybe it's kind of hard because he doesn't do this intentionally, but I'm getting let's say, what are the odds that Newsig's entire just presence there just kind of goes unnoticed for like a few seconds?
Well, okay, why? I don't understand what you mean.
Okay, I'll explain it in a meta sense because it's going to be hard to put into actual in-character context. Let's say for a while on the way out, he is, walking by and, paying his respects, and a bone piece just happens to fall off, and he's the only one who notices it. And when he raises his up, nobody seems to pay him any mind or any notice, so not wanting to look disrespectful or anybody think he broke it, he just pockets it. But that assumes that, his presence goes unnoticed, and the bone chip falls on the floor. And a bunch of other random shit that has no control.
Yeah, no, that would not be happening.
No.
Yeah, no. You do not get to keep a fang of a dragon. You put that right back in your pocket, fantasy boy. That thought goes no.
Unless you want the spirit of Nordstrom is on your ass.
Forget-
Sympathetic magic.
Forget Northern. I'm worried about the giant lion kicking your ass.
Admittedly, Percival did tell you the truth. He is decidedly much larger than
Himself.
than Percival. Like, you thought Percival was big.
Perseus is much bigger.
Perseus is.
Perseus.
You're pretty sure that if he got any more muscular, his muscles would burst out of his skin.
Jesus.
His pecs have pecs.
Basically, you would have, in another context, you would have thought he was a pulse bodybuilder, but the fact that the muscles aren't that, like, bulky, they're just very defined. Like, there's no way to ignore their presence. Go ahead.
I should clarify, that thought did cross his mind to take the bone chip because he is trying to get promoted, and providing a genetic sample could potentially, get him a boost.
It could also get him, like,
Killed.
hung from the rafters as a trophy.
Yeah, that's also possible.
This is why I say don't take anything.
Well, I wasn't listening to you, I was listening to Rage, who basically said no. Which is good enough.
It's a bad idea.
Well, Givon's gonna go ahead and sip some of that mead to see if it's any good or not.
Well, I don't know if you've had it before, but yeah, it's definitely friggin' good.
I
Try
rather
not-
happen to like mead in real life, so yay.
Let's
All
just hope.
I have no idea, but Cecily will have some too. We don't want to be disrespectful.
And you don't have to drink it all right now. But
Doctor would have some too, just to see how it tastes.
it's good. It's good. It's nice and sweet the way it's supposed to be. All that good jazz. Let's go ahead and get you guys over to Thoth then, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
I apologize, I had misplaced the music for Nordrun's Hall. Otherwise I would have had something playing.
Yep. Oh God.
Ooh.
Now you get a good feel for what the Oasis looks like.
Yep.
Cool.
And
Yeah,
we
but-
leave. Basically, I imagine we leave our coats back on the coat hangers
Yes.
No, Oh,
because we're going to the desert.
Yep.
it's still cold. Damn it!
It is not cold. It is not cold here in the desert.
That's like your opinion, man.
Let's at least
no,
win.
that is not an opinion at this point.
That's an
That is
opinion.
like a physical fact.
You don't want to
gotta
die
remember-
of heat stroke in the desert. It's terrible.
Yeah, no. As cold as Nordrun's wintry wonderland was, this is hot. Now that you're back in your regular gear, you can see why they provided you with those wrappings previously. Cause holy crap.
Can we just go someplace that's neutral in temperature?
At least there's plenty of palm trees for shade. You're also seeing more vectors out in the sands and what all than you did previously. And yes, you can move your tokens along towards the road if you so choose. As you pass by, you see a pair of crocodiles. You would have thought they were laterals until you see one of them specifically taking a modified fishing spear and spearing a fish in the artificial river.
Cool.
Dion's just gonna go ahead and pull some like sunglasses out of his jacket. 'Cause, God, this is too bright.
Like my glasses automatically tint to sunglasses.
Nice. Yeah, you can definitely see that there's quite a few vectors bustling about here, and the fact that you were able to go through the plains fairly quickly, you realize that there's probably an illusion of vision that makes this place seem much more vast than it really is, but it's still fairly significantly large as far as the realm itself.
Reminds me of my vacation on Venus. Only a lot less
What?
touristy.
Venus being less touristy, gotta love it.
Gimon just kind of looks over at Dax and just lets out a long, slow. Why?
So one of the things you do notice is that there is the sleek technology very openly everywhere, done in similar styles. Stargate.
Stargate, motherfucker.
But the symbology is very consistent, and it seems vaguely human, but at the same time very alien. There's not really a place quite like this on any planet that you know of, other than maybe Earth in way ancient times.
Well, too bad Earth is just the danger zone.
You're making me want to sing it.
Stop that. Stop that thought right now. Before it goes anywhere, you uproot that and throw that down.
Besides, you're not wearing a tactical black turtleneck.
Yeah, I am not.
Gimon might be, but God does he regret it now.
Which is why the doctor wears a lot of light clothing.
As you get to the main street of the small village, it is decidedly cooler in the shade, and you can also see a few fans and other things that help make the actual walkway a little bit easier. You can also see that there's like a market type deal going on. It's pretty. It's almost like you walked into a storybook from when you were children.
Hmm.
There's just so much going on, and it's just so outside of previous experiences.
Ooh,
You know,
ooh, oh, I know this one. Isn't this from the book The Prince and the Genie?
What if you said that out loud? One of the locals is gonna give you a dirty look.
Oh,
I'll take it. I'm excited. I'm in a picture book. I'm in one of my favorite books.
really? It reminds me more of the. Well, it reminds me more of a stupid version, but it reminds me of a prince. Something.
I get that.
Oh, don't be such a pouty face. I mean, when are we going to get to come back here? Enjoy it.
It is rather nice.
Now,
Like you never got that Prince of Persia reference?
yes, we got that. I said as much. Now then, you've approached the, what you can only assume is a library. It's a massive pyramid. You saw it earlier, but, you were closer towards where the river is. So it was somewhat obstructed by the palm trees and whatnot. Now that you're close to it, it is pretty big. It's a few stories tall. How they fit that in here, you're not quite sure.
Technological science!
Science! Now then, you are free to approach. The statuary is rather iconic and fairly well done.
Almost like it could come to life at any moment.
Don't.
Almost. The details are quite exquisite. And you're still not sure if it's actual stone or simply stone over steel. Could be.
Or some sort of 3D printed weirdness.
Exactly. Who
Might be-
knows?
It might be phone. You know, fake stone.
Now, as you approach, you could see Lord Thoth deep in conversation with a few of what you think are his pupils. It's kind of hard to tell, but they look like they're students.
Wait, did you put an insert? Never mind.
Shh. Say nothing. Now then. As you approach, Thoth greets you and dismisses the those who were speaking with him. One passes you by and the other heads off deeper into the pyramid. The doors are quite large enough to accept even someone as Nordrin's bulk, and bigger.
Because that's not worrisome at all.
Welcome, welcome. I see you are no worse for wear for visiting a very different clime. He adjusts his glasses a little bit. What have you learned?
Great
A
many
whole lot of-
things.
We learned the extent of what we do not know, but we have some decent starts. We came here to cross-reference some material and see what you knew about some specific topics, if you have the time, sir.
I'm afraid I personally cannot. But I do believe I have completed the work you are asking. Henry shall serve you well. He's the one who has gone back to the library. You'll find him there. For now, I have other work I must attend to. But please, if you'd be so kind as to let Henry take notes as you converse, I am certain I will be able to attend to your report soon enough.
I know.
Thank
Of
you.
course, thank you.
Most certainly. It is not every day we have visitors. It would not do to be rude to them. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Before you go, is there a member of your domain who could possibly serve as who could introduce us to the member of another?
Potentially. Ask Henry or one of the others.
Thank
They
you.
will give you that information. You're welcome.
Probably be safer to ask Percival.
No, we'll stick with Henry for now.
All right.
The large ibis vector walks off. It's still so strange to see someone so tall who looks so gangly, too.
It also has some very rocking plumage.
Well, I mean, that's besides the point, but yes. You can see a bovine vector of some sort seated at a table ahead of you, shifting through some papers. Over on a table off to the right is a, You blink for a moment and then you realize it's a whale. It was hard to see underneath all that bulk.
Huh.
He's of a similar size as Percival or Perseus, but notably wider.
That's a whale?
Yeah, that's a whale.
It looks like a manatee or something. I don't know.
Oh my god, a
There's a lot of
manatee
bulk.
vector, yes.
Oh my god. With the derp eyes.
Hey,
Anyway,
don't you
Kenny.
make fun of Earth-san.
Anyway, let's go to Kyle. Yeah.
Kyle? Who's Kyle?
I mean, Henry.
I was like, excuse
What?
Who the hell was Kyle?
How did
No,
you
my-
get there?
You killed Kyle.
No, my brain just went. No, my brain just farted on the name. It's like Henry.
Oh,
Henry.
good. That's fine. And that just made me laugh. Okay, so from here you're gonna have to tell me what all of you are doing. Let's start from the top with Cecily, and then we'll move along to the right. Is that okay with everyone?
Yep.
Sure.
Sure, yeah. Well, find this Henry person. He said he was in the library, so head deeper inside.
Okay. Newsig.
Also speak to Henry, because, you know, we don't split the party.
Though, you specifically get a very interesting look from the whale seated at the table reading a book. Again, it's made of paper, actual paper.
I'm gonna flash my bioluminescent little spots behind my eyes as like a greeting, like a wink, wink.
He rears his head back a little bit in confusion, but goes back to reading his book. All right, Dr. Reese.
I'll also talk to Henry.
Okay. Daxon, are you doing anything?
Yes. I am actually going to talk to Percival if he is not busy.
It'll take you a minute to find him. But yes, you will be able to.
He's right there. Oh,
Oh.
well, now I know that.
Wait, why are you assuming that that's Percival? What if that's another lion named Persuvius?
Don't be.
Hey, you know what? I might just do that. So you better stop that before you start something you don't want.
Well, it's
Well,
like,
that is-
I mean,
triplet
lions are known
lions.
for having big families, so why not?
That's true.
But yes, no, it is Percival, but I just put his token there because eventually I was going to use him anyway, so yes, okay, you will find him, it'll just take you a minute.
Okay.
And Gimond.
Gimon's gonna stroll over and kind of look at the real, actual paper book and see what it is a book of.
Alright. The whale looks at you a little funny, but he doesn't say anything. You're surprised someone with hands that big can actually move the paper without tearing it out. But it appears to be a book about myth, actually. Human myths of all kinds of varieties. Apparently, this page is on the spirit of bravado, a Leroy of some kind.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
No!
Stop reading! Stop reading!
Stop
Copyright
reading.
infringement!
He's apparently one of many from a more modern era. Modern being a comparative term to some of the more vastly more ancient spirits, such as Nike. You thought that was associated with clothing.
Oh my god.
Gimon's just thinking in his head, man, human mythology sucks.
They have some stupid names.
Who is Nike?
Who's Nikki? And why are they a god of shoes?
Like a goddess of footwear? Like, what the hell?
I thought the ancient human god of shoes was Air Jordan.
Oh.
We giggle at this, but the fact is that might very well be how canon vectors would see that. Now then, you are able to find quite a few other vectors in the library, and you realize very suddenly it is a library.
Neat.
Like a very strange.
Well, unlike libraries that you're used to, there are computers and digital things here and there, but there's so many actual physical books, even weird rolled up ones. It takes you a minute and then you remember the term is scroll. And there are so many different varieties, some with wooden outer ends, some with metal, some made of stone, others, more hardcover paperbacks. So many different varieties, and some kept in glass cases, others more open to the air. You've
Okay.
never seen so much money in one place.
Also, imagine like in a black box that says "Twilight, do not open." 'Cause
Don't
it's-
open that can.
Do not open it.
Yeah, no. You do notice that there seems to be some very slim volumes with bright colors and vibrantly costumed characters on them.
Ooh,
One of
those
them
are probably
has a
mine.
big M on it. Another has X. And some dude is apparently a human dressed as a bat. How racist.
Specious.
That's species appropriation.
Also, the carpet is very sumptuous and pleasant on your feet. Even though you aren't barefoot, you could tell. If you were, this would be nice.
I almost feel like we should take our shoes off while we're inside.
You could if you wanted to. Some of the other vectors in the library are.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, we don't know. We don't want to track sand in here if we can help it.
Like, I imagine, like, take off the shoes, there's like a small mountain of sand.
Or just flip your boot over, and there's just a pile of it, and then a scorpion skitters out. Ugh! When does that get in there?
Knowing the level of technology, it's probably self-motivated sand that just sweeps itself out of the door.
Yep.
Yep.
Either that, or there's a robot of some kind that does it.
Like a small iRobot.
Beep boop.
Yeah, a little like what's his name, Mo from Wally.
Mow.
Contaminant.
Alright. So, you only see one Vector who distinctly looks like a librarian, so to speak. He's seated at a writing desk. An actual desk, made for just writing. What is this madness?
People are so weird here.
Be over here. Boop. A raccoon Vector, with thick spectacles lifted on his face, and an otherwise fairly modern appearance. His clothing isn't the same sort of tunic you see on many other Vectors here, but rather, more kind of like the Spacers jumpsuits you might see outside.
So actually, kind of similar to what Daxon's wearing. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little less armored, I presume.
Oh, distinctly so. This is very clearly a civilian jumpsuit.
Excuse us.
Bah! What? Huh? He jumps a little, and some ink splatters from his pen onto the page. Oh, darn it! I'll just have to make that into some kind of drawing or something. It's fine. I'm sorry. Who are you? I'm Henry.
I'm
Perfect.
Okay. Perfect. I'm Dr. Reese Lucifer. This is New Sig, and that's Cecily. We're here to talk about the makeshift runes that happened in.
Oh, that. Yes. Well, where is it? He rifles through some papers and things. Ah, here we are. Yes, this is our report. It was one of the few times I've actually gotten to work with Lord Thoth directly and under his supervision. I'm very proud of it. Here, please be careful. That is rather expensive. It took me days to make.
I'm going to
Like actual
treat it very
piece,
ginger.
actual piece of paper?
Yes.
Yeah, piece of paper, and start going through it.
Lord Thoth has the digital copy, though I'm certain he will put it into the library at some point. He's very responsible that way.
Cecily is just going to take a picture of it with her Toggle case.
Aww. But that defeats the purpose.
It's a lot easier than just putting it out there.
I understand that, but this is more convenient, and besides, like you said, this is very expensive in this way. There's no risk that I might damage it on accident.
That's okay, this is a copy. I have several others.
Oh.
We're required to make any paper we produce is made in triplicate. Not manually, of course. We have a printer for that. Old human relic, very rarely used anymore. Ours, of course, is just a replica, but we do have the original somewhere. I'm sure it's in Lord Thoth's personal collection, underground. Though, would we really call this underground since we're all in a space station? And it merely to be underground?
For appearance's sake, I think you can call it that, yes.
What's on the paper?
It's very exhaustive report on human linguistics.
Teeny tiny writing.
Teeny tiny writing.
Oh, great.
That needs the talking case to magnify.
So
No, it's legible. It's actually startlingly clear. You would have thought that this was typed up and printed on it if it wasn't for the fact that occasionally you see on the copy in the corners a finger smudge from ink stains.
Wow.
The writing is distressingly perfectionist.
Neat.
However, it does get to the point eventually on specifically the evidence provided, and after several research points, they say it was some sort of runic system in a place called Scandinavia. The exact versions of these seem to have been a bit divergent from the roots, so it's a little hard to tell where exactly the person whoever wrote this got their information. But the translation for the symbols used is very clear. Sigurd. Sigurd.
Sigurd.
Interesting.
And every single one is written in the exact same hand. It goes on for some time about, the importance of penmanship in relation to the forms of runes, and that, the reordering these could have allowed it to have a different meaning, da-da-da-da. It doesn't give you anything on what Sigurd actually means, though.
Is it a name? Oh, Daxon isn't here right now. That's right.
Mhm.
Could this be a name of some kind?
Oh, yes, here. I don't have the book. We must have already shelved it. The human mythos section. Probably to the top shelf. Green cover. The title is Northern Legends.
Cecily will go look for it.
And while she does that, just to ask mentally, do these symbols look similar to the ones that were glowing on Nordy's floor?
Yes, they do.
Well, shit.
Shit.
There
They're
goes my
not
theory.
they're not the same though. They have similar style. So either it comes from the same root languages or something, or they were just made to look that way. You don't know.
I understand that, but at the same time, this kills my theory that it was truly an outsider. This is somebody who knew both the theming and the mythos, which drastically narrows down the pool.
Now, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to jump to Daxon and Percival.
Sure.
Go for it.
Okay, Daxon, you finally meet Percival. He's studying at a desk. It's a very large book. But when he sees you, he steps away and closes the book and hands it back to a vector nearby and approaches you.
Sir Percival.
Daxon, a pleasure.
I hoped to ask you a few questions. Should
Yeah,
it
provide
not
you
be too difficult? We spoke with Perseus regarding the whole circumstance, and I was wondering if you knew much about Nordrun's family, specifically the mother of his child.
Shay Lung. I consider her a sister spirit of sorts. She was critical in my instruction as a warrior. You see, unlike many others, she is trained in a very ancient art that has been passed down since human times and adapted to vector usage. It is a way of unarmed combat. And while she aspires to more political intrigue, as does her mistress, she is formidable in empty hand to hand. I have seen her tan not only my own hide, but the hide of many large combatants, much stronger than herself. Physically speaking, anyway. She loved Nordrun. Loved him dearly. And it was believed for a time that she would join his cause. But he would not have her. He was after something grander. His greed. All very disappointing. They would have been a good match.
Understood. Are you, by any chance, on decent terms with Shay Lung? Would you be able to arrange any sort of meeting? I know this is a time of grief, but it's standard IRPF procedure to question the relatives of deceased victims.
No, of course, that makes perfect sense. Normally we would have sent you there directly, but as you can see, some circumstances arose that would necessitate your attention elsewhere primarily. As it stands, I believe I could arrange something. I would have to send a message along our system, but I believe I should be able to get a reply fairly shortly.
That would be much appreciated. We have other business we need to take care of. Some equipment that was presumably taken from the engineering department, but we need to find out more.
Do you need audience with Lord Radadosk?
That would be actually quite good, yes.
If he's not busy actually working on one of our various mechanical systems keeping all of this running, he'd be more than happy. Of all the members of the Pantheon, he is the most informal and the easiest to actually sit with. Not always the most scintillating of conversationalists, he tends to prefer to talk about machines over people or the intrigues of the court. But at least he is a light-hearted fellow. Yes, I will I will send a messenger down to the engineering and see if they can convince him to pry himself from his work. Talk to you.
That would be... Oh, I would really appreciate it. Thank you, Sir Percival.
Of course. It is my duty as your liaison to make this job smooth. Is there anything else that I might assist you with?
Out of character, was there anything else we're going to ask? I don't recall.
We were going to try and get an introduction to Darksky or whoever, the rival, and also to Kuzunoa.
There was another issue regarding the victim's rival, Lord Darksky. Daxon almost sounds a little incredulous, like he never expected to say a name like that.
I would give you fair warning. In his presence, referred to him as Chief. He's not one for the other titles used here.
Chief Darksky. Got it. Thank you.
I can understand an outsider's reluctance and hesitation at such a name, but it is the one he chose, and considering his powers, it fits.
As I understand, there was a ongoing rivalry between the victim and this Chief Dark Sky regarding philosophical standpoints, mostly.
And many other things. Their gladiatorial bouts were things of legend.
By your brother's account, this Chief Dark Sky didn't really seem the type to murder someone in an underhanded fashion, even in spite the rivalries. That said, we may need to speak with them. At the very least, eliminating suspects or assuaging their suspicions.
I see. To either clear him of all suspicion or to confirm it.
Exactly.
While I do not enjoy the idea of suspecting one of our pantheon of murdering someone so dear to the community, despite my differences with Lord Nurdren's philosophies, I respected his purpose here. I can see what I can do. I am in not good graces with him.
Would it be better to approach them as a neutral party?
It might be.
In
My
that
connection
case,
with Perseus might sour any attempts. Admittedly, you won't be able to exactly escape the stigma of being potentially the service of Nordrun's lackeys. The reality is, you are outsiders, and describe yourselves to none. So while they might have their suspicions, they cannot deny you on simple suspicion alone. You may not get an audience directly with him, but someone who under his direct service might be able to get you for proper questioning. Inquisitions are never something he enjoys, no matter their color.
I have yet to meet someone who does enjoy it. That said, it's our job to get this done as efficiently as possible. Much appreciated. I will do my best to try and arrange a meeting on our own. But for what it's worth, none of these suspicions are personal. Everyone is a suspect until cleared. That's just standard procedure.
Indeed. You must get your facts straight before you can come to any sort of conclusions. Of the wisest of knights have taught us similar things. It is old philosophy dating back long before vectors. As Lord Thoth would say, wisdom is like a nugget of gold. It is easy to trod underfoot and bury it, but for those who know where to look, it still gleams just as brightly.
Daxon kind of gives him a sharp nod and says, I shouldn't intrude on your time anymore, but thank you very much for your help. And should Lord Radadusk and Chief Dark Sky prove amenable, that would help the investigation. I'll contact the latter on my own, and if I have any difficulties, I'll come to you.
Indeed. Now then, we'll skip back to Henry and the friends. Hello, friends! Cecily,
Yes.
you found the book.
Hooray!
It's heavy and big and on the top shelf. You need a ladder.
She can't fly there.
She needs her hands.
Use your feet.
I probably could do that, but I think a ladder would be the better idea, not just because, you know, trying to pry a book out of a bookshelf, a big and heavy book, I'd probably send a lot of other books tumbling down.
Go at it Harpy style. Caw-caw!
And also, actually, Cecily is not overly fond of flying.
She's a chicken, not a hawk.
It's really, 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 really exhausting.
Are you sure it's just that it would ruffle her feathers?
Well, that too! Having a lot of plumage actually does not help flying. She is not the most aerodynamic of birds.
She is, however, the poofiest of burbs.
All I can imagine is something kind of like a husky or a samoyed when they're cute and pudgy running around, and then just the floof wibble wobbling everywhere.
So I shall go on a quest to find a ladder.
There is one on the wall, right over by the side. It's not hard to find nor use. It lines up. It looks like it's literally been sized for these shelves to do exactly this thing.
Oh, that does make
Area
sense.
clear then.
Quest item received.
Fetch quest complete. When you return to the book, Henry will take it off your hands and rapidly fingers through it.
I had no idea books would be so heavy.
Well, they are made of paper, and per page it's only less than an ounce, but you put enough tiny ounces together, and immediately there we are. Here it is. This section. Sigurd. According to ancient legends, a noble warrior of sorts, they slew a dragon. Was one of their major compatriots. They all major accomplishments. One of the other things is I think they were associated with the recovery of a ring.
Oh.
I believe the connection is quite obvious.
So,
Yes.
someone seeking for glory to kill a dragon. Nordrun.
It is believed that there's some tone of revenge in Sigurd's tale, but that might be simply misinterpretation or an ancillary reasoning. It might actually have nothing to do with it.
So he's now trying to find a ring of some kind.
Again, not everything is going to line up with what is currently going on, but no doubt, whoever did this intentionally mentions their name.
Or mentions the name of their ancestor.
It could all be smoke and mirrors, but it is important to keep it in mind.
Precisely, it could simply be a distraction, but it's hard to know. I'm no sleuth, no Sherlock here, but you don't have any idea who this Sherlock is supposed to be.
I was about to ask.
But I would say that this is connected somehow. Exactly what is yet to be seen. That said, there are a few other legends of different dragons and other such creatures, like the god Thor. Here it says that he wielded a hammer made of lightning, or was it thunder? It's unclear.
Possibly
And,
thunder.
Killed a serpent, a massive snake. Literally so large as to encircle the entire planet. Obviously exaggeration.
Obviously.
Hmm. So what are these?
There's a few other accounts of similar creatures being killed. Mostly giants and trolls and ogres and things, but apparently Northern legend was full of such, as well as darker things. But none of those seem to be directly related, and Sigurd's the only one that very clearly killed a dragon. The dragon was called Fafnir? Fafnir?
Fafnir. Fafnir.
Something. I don't exactly know how to say this name. These languages aren't my specialty.
Fafnir?
Wasn't that
Did you
one
catch
of
that?
Lord Nordrun's other names?
Possibly, linguistics is my specialty, but this specific branch of mythos and language is not exactly my forte. I'm more of the ancient human tongue Chinese.
Real quick, you
Quite
four,
alright.
you four have experience in this. How often are these events a one-off?
What do you mean?
How many
Murder
times
like
is there only? Sorry, go ahead, Rage.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you mean how many times are there murders quite like this? That only
No,
happen once?
I was getting. How many times does a murderer who does so stylistically only kill one individual?
It's impossible to say. It depends on the on the motive. It's just as a speculation. If we're looking at somebody who's trying to kill, let's say, great victims in style, then he might very well go after others and theme the murders accordingly to who and what they are.
Wait.
At the same time, it could be just this one thing. They wanted to make it seem fitting for whatever reason, be it just as a distraction, or who knows? It might even be a sign of respect. Maybe they figure by tying the murder into these ancient myths, they somehow show respect to their victim.
I understand where you're coming from. I just think that with all the effort that went into getting those symbols to match correctly and to do all the research, this doesn't seem like a one-off.
By the way,
It's
are those one of those great legends sliced up with a spear?
Oh, yes. There's many spears. Here in these legends. The spear of Wotan, also known as Otin. It has a specific title, but I can't, for the life of me, make heads or tails of how to say this. There's also the spears of the Valkyrie. Is that how I say this? Goddesses of death that escort warriors to heaven or some such nonsense. Oh, the drinking hall of the gods to eternally revel and make war. Why would anyone always want to make war? Fighting is so tiring and painful.
Ask Percival's brother. Oh, wait, I'm not
Ugh.
here. God dang it, I can't be snarky.
Ask Perseus.
Well, you could say that. You could have walked up at the exact moment. I'm not saying you did.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that'll be Daxon's reintroduction. It'd just be like, ask Percival's brother as he walks up.
Oh dear. Oh, I accidentally closed the thing. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Aha,
Jesus.
we have free reign now.
woo party.
Let's go back to the hot springs.
Okay. Here it is. It's coming back. Woo! Woogity woogity woogity.
Ah, crap, GM's coming back. Everybody put their clothes back on.
Damn it.
All right. Gimond,
Yes, sir.
what have you been doing?
Gimon's just kind of been walking through the different shelves of the library, just looking at random books, basically. At this point, he has wandered back to join the group, though.
Okay. Excellent. Now that you have joined back in the group, you are able to, I'll have a moment with Daxon's wonderful snarky comment. I wouldn't ever want to talk to him.
He's intense.
That's putting it lightly. The man is covered in more scars than I think all the soldiers of half the IRPF have. Ugh! And who knows what kind of unsanitary... Long story short, I don't want to talk to him. He's scary.
He is
Exactly.
very clearly compensating for something. Nice guy, though.
He's actually a pretty nice guy once you know him.
Compensating, right? Sure. Call it what you want. Anyway, do you need any other assistance here?
Actually, yes. Are you familiar with any other code names for the other members of the Pantheon?
Oh yes, and many of the children and hopefuls as well. For instance, Sir Percival is often called the most perfect knight. I tend to agree. He's very polite and an exemplary case of.
Let's just
good
stick with
person.
the members of the Pantheon, the main members.
Okay, Zezarad the Eternal is a nickname of sorts, though I don't know that he particularly likes that. Let's see, Chief Dark Sky, the Son of Lightning, also the Thunderbird. What else does he have? Oh, the Oncoming Storm. he many of our pantheon is somewhat prideful, but for good reason. Nordrun was the Verdant, the Gold Seeker, Fafnir, and Protector of the Snowborn Cavern. I don't know why he called himself that. That was what he gave himself. Scylla, Lady of Deep Waters. The Whirlpool.
It's all right. You don't have to stress yourself. My main point was, while we're gone, I have a gut feeling that there's probably a few other stories similar to this one that might involve the other Pantheon members' nicknames.
Well, I can think of a few other dragons who live on the Empyrean that have kind of assorted nicknames.
Well, I would look up the stories associated with those nicknames. We might find a clue, and who knows, we might be able to prevent a second occurrence, or trace down who did this.
Or maybe stop another assassination.
Oh, you mean like the Lady of Foxes, also of Mirrors, Kuzunoha. She has a lot of legends associated with some of her other nicknames. Mostly to be dealing with political intrigue, but in one case, there is a legend of a very important dragon-type creature. Maybe it's associated?
It's worth a shot.
It's possible.
The Lady of the Sun. This is specifically talking about a goddess associated with wolves, and rice and foxes. Amateres, I think, is how you say it.
The Dr. Reese is going to try and interpret it as Amaterasu.
Perhaps the actual translation is a little fuzzy here and there, so much information has been lost. It's been centuries on top of the fact that, corruption from the data files that had all this. The long story short is, the goddess of the sun was imprisoned in a cave by a vile serpent, and a master warrior came and slew the serpent and freed her. This is not all that different from some of the parts of the Legend of Sigurd, where the serpent was in a cavern and protecting a cave. The Sigurd had to go and kill this dragon in a similar situation. Maybe they're connected.
Maybe the person who killed Nordrun might have go after Kuzunoha next.
It's possible. I don't see why they would, but if that was the case, maybe they're posing as the serpent. Daxon, your toggle goes off, and it's a little
Oh.
case. You have a message.
Oh,
It's from-
shit.
Oop.
It's not from a known number or icon. What is it? Contact. But the message says that it was forwarded from Sir Percival.
Oh. I check it.
Shay Lung is dead.
Oh!
What's
Daxon
it say?
Daxon just stares at a screen and goes, "Shit."
What happened?
What, Jackson?
Shenlong's dead.
We should
Wait.
probably get over there then.
Yeah, we gotta go now.
Hold on.
What?
Henry? What? Henry, did she have a nickname?
Shaylong. Shayloon.
Yeah,
I said nick.
the scintillating serpent. Why?
What
Oh,
was her
no.
nickname?
Oh no! Just the utter look of panic and
Tell-
horrific realization.
I tell Lord Thoth now, as I start bolting out.
He takes only enough time to gently place the book on the table before he scrambles out of the chair, knocking it over, rushing past all of you. Lord Thoth! Lord Thoth! He's screeching at the top of his lungs.
I'm basically just going after the door, trying to find the fox symbol.
Well, you have a problem.
Yep.
You don't know the emblem for Kuzunoha or Shaylung.
Shit!
Did I see Percival on the way out?
No. He is missing. Well, from here, but that's not to be unexpected, because, like,
We
he's
just
a
asked
busy
him to do
person.
something.
He's got a lot of shit. You just asked him to do it, and now he's going to go do it. He just happens to message you because of the process. Oh, hey, by the way, the person you wanted to go talk to, yeah, they did.
But they said we could ask, like, guards, so...
Yeah, I'm gonna send a message to him that I need her location because we need to check the crime scene before anything happens. And while I am sending that message, I'm gonna look for a guard to ask for directions just for redundancy.
They're in. She was in the Garden of Foxes. Well, I guess you know where you're going now.
To the
Yep.
Garden of Foxes.
Yep. Although I will say that on our end, IRL, we do have to do some house stuff because the bug people are coming later today in
Alright.
about a couple hours.
Well, then, if you would like, we can end it here.
Yep.
This
Oh, maybe it's
this
not
this
quite.
actually feels like a good place to stop, yes.
Yeah, that's a perfect place to stop.
It's a cliffhanger.
Yeah, pretty
Shaylung
much.
is dead. Fuck.
Oh, no need to use such strong language.
Now then, herpeter her. Well, you are done here for now. Let me get your experience and what already.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Where's my thing? Where's my thing?
Did we stop streaming yet, Tygon?
Nope.
Missed opportunities.
Why?
Because I'm trying to be appropriate for the stream, you know, like PG-13 at most.
Which is fair.
And Rage gave such a great setup, and I can't sing it.
Well, you could. I'd just probably punish you for it. Okay, there we go. Alright, 11 XP. You guys had a decent rollover. And, you did some good stuff. You were very smart about how you approached this. So there you go. You're rewarded.
I'm sorry to have to ask, how much XP did we get last time? I seem to have
10.
failed to write
10.
it down. Thank you.
So we have 21 total.
No worries. I'm pleased to be of assistance.
All right. Unless there's anything else, I shall end the stream.
No, I don't see any reason.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Everybody say goodbye to the viewers.
Farewell.
See you on
Bye.
next session.
Bye-bye.
Later.